if you think you can sit on the fence and like hopefully one day maybe you get in, it's like, no, you're misunderstanding. The house owns the fence and will kick you off it if you don't come into it. Waiting too long to follow him is really just another way of saying no. As Jesus taught in the temple, he said, "How can the scribes say that the Christ is the son of David? David himself in the Holy Spirit declared, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet.' David himself calls him Lord. So how is he his son?" And the great throng heard him gladly. And in his teaching he said, "Beware of the scribes who like to walk around in long robes and like greetings in the marketplaces and have the best seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at feasts, who devour widows' houses and for a pretense make long prayers. They will receive the greater condemnation." That's a long text, and there's a lot to dig through in there. We have three major challenges, and then we also ultimately have Jesus himself bringing a final question to the crowd there. See, the religious leaders, again, they're trying to trap Jesus. They ask him these three difficult questions. The first being, should we pay taxes to Caesar? Jesus asks for the coin, and he says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. In other words, follow the law, but remember that you belong to God because you bear his image. So follow the laws that have been written for you. But in your heart of hearts, you belong to God. Then to the next challenge of what happens after we die. The Sadducees didn't believe in resurrection, so they tried to make Jesus look silly here, using the storage of marriage to say, hey, how does this all work? What's going to happen? Or who's going to be married to this person? And Jesus just straight up tells them they're wrong. You're straight up wrong. You're wrong about resurrection. Your story is wrong because they're not going to be married. It's not how that's going to work. And you haven't read this text right. There is a resurrection. It just doesn't work the way you think it does. He says God isn't the God of dead, but he's the God of living, which is saying that even in that time, at that moment, that Isaac and Moses and Jacob were living eternally in heaven. This is how we know that even the old saints are there because they had a faith at that time. And he just tells them they're straight up wrong. And then this scribe watching everything is like, oh, he handled that deftly. He was so good at that. I got a good question. Let's see what he does here. What is the most important commandment? Jesus replies, love God with all your whole heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbors as yourself. See, he didn't even actually truly answer the scribe because the scribe asked for one. And Jesus took two and made it one, which the rest of the New Testament continues to do, right? Jesus asks his own question after all of this, and he says, how can the Messiah be David's son if David calls him Lord? See, in other words, Jesus is not just a king in David's line. This is why Jesus is putting this question forward. There's so much to unpack in all of these texts and all of these challenges, but there's one that I really want you to understand here, and that when Jesus is pulling out this text, he wants to make it really clear that while, yes, Jesus is in the lineage of David, he does have kingly authority because of that. He's actually far greater. He is the Son of God, and that is where his ultimate authority comes. Jesus went toe-to-toe, round after round, with all three parts of the Sanhedrin there. He took out the Pharisees, he took out the Sadducees, he took out the scribes, and my favorite part is like after all three of those groups challenge him, they seemingly leave. I mean, the scribes are still being talked to, but the other groups are gone, and now Jesus is in the temple. He is in their place of rule, where they have control over everything that has happened, and now Jesus is the one asking the questions and teaching lessons. Yesterday, he flipped the tables. Today, he turns the tables, and now he is literally the one standing on the table in their place of worship and saying, this is actually how it is. And you want to know my authority? It's from my Father. Jesus is showing wisdom. He doesn't get tricked He ends up turning every trap into a chance to teach. And ultimately, his goal wasn't just to win arguments, but he was actually trying to win hearts. He's trying to get people to see. Just as I'm sure the son in the vineyard was trying to do as they were threatening to kill him. Trying to get him to see what truly was true. In this final scene in verses 41 to 44, we're going to see a widow that shows what true devotion looks like. Here's what the text says. And he sat down, this is after his teaching here, and he sat down opposite the treasury and watched the people putting money into the offering box. Many rich people put in large sums. And then a poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which makes a penny. And he calls his disciples to him and said to them, "Truly, I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all those who are contributing to the offering box. For they all contributed out of their abundance, but she out of her poverty has put in everything she had, all that she had to live on." See, Jesus is sitting in the temple, and he's watching as people are giving offering. See, rich people are putting in large amounts of money. At this time, it was normal practice to be pretty showy about how that was happening when the rich were coming. They made sure that they were holding the pouch nice and high and dropping the coins for all to hear the large amount that they were putting in that box. Everyone could hear the clinking. And then this poor widow walks up. She just puts in 2 tiny coins worth almost nothing. But Jesus notices, and he says, she gave more than all others. They gave out of their riches. She gave out of her need. She gave everything that she had. See, it's not about the size of the gift. It's about the size of the sacrifice. See, this woman trusted God completely. And soon, Jesus would give everything too. Not coins, but his very life. This widow's gift wasn't just money. It was a picture of complete surrender. She was holding nothing back. She was literally holding her survival. She was giving away her survival. This is the complete opposite of the scribes, who Jesus just warned against, of taking the best seats in the house and having a festival and knowing that they're getting the best food. These scribes, they loved the attention, they loved the honor, but they actually lacked a true love for God. Isn't this amazing? This whole chapter ends not with like a rich ruler or the powerhouses figuring it out and still being in power. No, like they've been taken out. Jesus is taking their place. The system has been unended. And the chapter ends with a poor, unseen, unknown woman. The crowds were likely ignoring her. The leaders surely did not care about her contribution. That would have been not even a decimal point on their collection from that day. But Jesus sees her and he honors her. It's just a good remembrance that Jesus doesn't measure our faith by how much we give, but how much it costs us. This woman models the very kind of discipleship that Jesus has been calling for all along. Lose your life, and you will find it. Sacrifice everything for my kingdom, and you will surely inherit it. Deny yourself, and follow me. Some people might say, I like the teaching of Jesus, but I'm not ready to follow him yet. See, I ran into a Jewish brother a couple weeks ago. And in a moment of honesty, he said, you know what, I think we have it wrong. I think Jesus was the Messiah. But I don't know that I want to follow him yet. Was his follow-up. See, Jesus isn't just a wise teacher. He is our Lord. And that term has just lost all meaning today. Lords. king. This is a good thing. We have a perfect king that wants to perfectly lord us, lead us, care for us, guide us. For those of you that are in this state of, I'm not quite sure, or maybe I see it, but I don't quite want to follow. Waiting too long to follow him is really just another way of saying no. I've said it before. You're either in the house of God or you're out of the house of God. If you think you can sit on the fence and hopefully one day maybe you get in, it's no, you're misunderstanding. The house owns the fence and will kick you off it if you don't come into it. Waiting too long to follow him is really just another way of saying no. And others might say, and I understand this, I've been hurt by religion. I've been hurt by churches. I don't trust church leaders. Gosh, my heart breaks. Jesus understands that pain. He spoke strongly against fake leaders who used religion to gain some form of power in their area. Jesus also feels your pain, and he does not want those leaders lording over you. But brothers and sisters, he still calls people to follow God, truly, from the heart. See, Jesus came to the temple to do more than speak. He came to challenge everything that was broken. He came to call all the people back to God and to show that he is actually the one in charge. It is his authority that Jesus is wielding in this moment. See, the religious leaders, they want to question him and challenge him, but Jesus in this moment shows them that he is the Son of God and the true King over their entire life. He is the cornerstone that God promised long ago, that all the church will be built on for the rest of generations until we are called home. And now we find it, that it is our turn to decide. Will we recognize who Jesus truly is? Will we listen to his voice? Will we trust his authority? And will we follow him with our whole heart? That is the most important question that you will ever answer. If you have ever answered that in the affirmative, then you need to keep asking yourself, is my heart in this? Or like last week, is it hollow? Is my heart in this? And if you have never answered that question before and you're just hoping someday maybe you'll figure it out, or maybe someday the Lord's going to do just the perfect thing to give you the perfect sign, I'm telling you, get off the fence. Stop waiting. By your waiting, by your challenging, you are trapping yourselves inevitably. You are saying no over a longer period of time. This is the most important question that you will ever answer, without a doubt.